The Warriors just hardened their perimeter blueprint, and that ripple is already shaking the rotation in ways that casual fans won't see until it's too late. Welcome to Warriors News Fan Report, where you get updates and rumors from our beloved team with the precision of a film room and the heartbeat of a fan in the lower bowl. And here's what I'm bringing you right now. How the guard room rebalanced towards shooting gravity and switchable length. Why that shift matters in Kerr's winning time lineups. What the next 20 games will look like if Golden State leans into 5-out tempo with smarter second-side reads, and how one veteran stopper who wants to find our identity is suddenly staring at a very different reality as the season accelerates. Stay with me because I'm going to connect minutes trends, injury timeline, cap flexibility, and tactical fits without wasting a second of your night. And only when all the pieces are on the table am I going to drop the name you came for and explain exactly what it means for the chase that really counts. I start where the game is actually played, spacing and decisions. Two currencies the staff has clearly prioritized in this phase. The second unit is being built to keep the floor wide and the ball moving without bleeding stops. And that has pulled more minutes toward guards who can punish tags on the catch, slide up defensively without fouling, and toggle between organizer and finisher. Depending on who shares the floor with Steph, Draymond, and the wings, you've watched it the last handful of games. Less tolerance for non-shooters, more trust in players who keep the weak side honor code intact and still bring point-of-attack resistance with real size, which is why you've seen Brandon Podziemski's connected passing and Moses Moody's balanced footwork draw longer stints. Why Pat Spencer's low-mistake stints have turned into real shifts, and why the looming return of D'Anthony Melton is the kind of two-way reinforcement that can lock an 8-man playoff shell in place once his legs are fully under him. This is not a random shuffle. It's a philosophical tilt toward a modern middle-less gambling on extremes, more squeezing value out of every square on the chessboard. When you overlay that philosophy on the box scores, the pattern is blunt. A beloved defensive specialist who once bought us 3 momentum plays per night has been sliding from mid-teens playoff minutes last spring to a single-digit clip early this season, including multiple second halves where his slot evaporated, all culminating in that hard 0 against Phoenix that said more about Kerr's current priorities than any soundbite could. If you were in the building, you felt it. Devin Booker detonated during his runs. Yes, but Golden State managed the non-Booker windows by emphasizing continuity, shooting threats, and strong side discipline. And the staff stuck with the guards who kept the offense breathing while still getting defensive contests at the right depths. That choice doesn't dismiss defense. It reframes which defensive tools you privilege when your best lineups need 5 viable pass-shoot-dribble threats to keep the paint unclogged and the rotations honest. Layer in the human tug-of-war. This locker room loves effort, toughness, and the guys who make fourth-row plays. Nobody is blind to what a great on-ball nat gives you when the crowd wants blood. And nobody forgets the sequences where a strip at the nail turns into a run-out and the roof comes off. But seasons are long, legs get loud, and the math of winning in 2025 is brutal if the weak side defender can camp at the nail because he doesn't fear your catch and shoot. Your drives shrink, your kickouts flatten, and suddenly Steph's gravity is doing more work to hold the structure than it should. The staff's answer has been to raise the two-way floor in the guard room and let the identity breathe across all 38 minutes. Steph isn't unleashing hell. That's where the Melton timeline becomes more than a rehab note. Once he's greenlit, you plug in a guard with real screen navigation, quick hands, plus wingspan, and a standstill 3 that forces honest contact. And now your closing shells can be Curry Melton with Draymond orchestrating, a rangy wing slotting next to them, and your fifth toggling based on game texture. Suddenly the idea of a pure specialist who doesn't bend space on offense becomes a luxury you deploy situationally, not a staple you plan around nightly. And because I refuse to talk vibes without talking numbers, let me put hard edges on what the rotation choices have telegraphed. Last season, the perimeter stopper we're all thinking about hovered around 15 minutes per game and nudged up to roughly 60 in the playoffs when matchups begged for his chaos. This season, his usage cratered to roughly 8 in the opening stretch, then hit that first clean DNP despite availability. The kind of coach's decision that only arrives when several teammates have forced the issue by doing two or three things well instead of one thing at an elite level. It also arrived on a night where Pat Spencer gave you a checklist shift catch swing cut defend finish with composure and where the rookie guard held spacing on balance and didn't let the ball stick. Two traits that directly fix what has hurt the non-Steph units in recent seasons. Zoom out and you see the front office's fingerprints on this too. They spent the summer creating optionality, modest deals, and partial guarantees that won't handcuff the team at the apron lines. Value contracts for developmental guards who already read the game at NBA speed. And a bet on Melton's healthy upside that, if it cashes, gives Kerr a plug-and-play top 8 piece whose profile mirrors what wins right now. When your books are flexible, you can be ruthless with minutes in November, then even more truthful near the market windows if the depth chart demands a different look, not because of panic, but because the roster pathways exist without tearing at the core that still defines the ceiling. I want to be fair to the legend of what the Glove Son has been for us, because respect is part of being a real fan. At his best, he detonates dribble handoffs before they exist, ambush the ball like a corner blitz, and slips into the dunker for a putback that wakes up every seat from the club to the ceiling. He is a playoff useful player with a champion's scar tissue and the kind of edge that travels on the road. But rotations aren't resumes, they're living organisms. And right now this team is asking for spacing honesty on every possession and switchable length that shrinks windows without sending two to the ball. That has made room for Moody to grow into a larger bite, for Pods to quarterback actions in rhythm, for Spencer to supply connective tissue in short bursts, and for the rookie to hold the corner with a base that doesn't get bullied. Each of those wins chips away at the minutes available to a one-skill archetype, no matter how beloved. I've also got to underline how the Suns tape clarifies the logic with more texture than a single box score line can show. Booker's individual brilliance forced tough choices, deep pull-ups over a hand, snaking into middies, leveraging ghost screens to free his left shoulder, and yet the Warriors calmly won the non-Booker minutes by refusing the punt, spacing for the comfort of familiarity. In those stretches, the floor looked breathable, the second side stayed occupied, and the staff doubled down on guards they trust to keep the offense above water while still delivering body-on-body contests, clean low-man tags, and organized X-outs. You could see it in the little things, the bench guard who posts a 7-3-4 line with 2 stocks and 11, compose minutes without hijacking a single possession, also sprinting into the corner on time, cut out of the slot when the nail stunted, and put his chest on drives at 8 feet instead of at the rim. Coaches love that because it travels. You could see it in the rookie's footwork. He caught square, didn't drift on the hop, turned his shoulders with balance, and when he attacked baseline, he hit the paint with 2 feet under him, eyes up, pass ready. That's what earns veteran trust in a week, not a month. And you could feel the front office's relief in the subtext once Melton inches close enough to justify a real role. Screen navigation you don't have to protect. Hand activity that doesn't gamble the backline. And a standstill 3 that makes weak side helpers think twice. Executives see a path to night-to-night consistency when those traits sit beside Steph and under Draymond's guidance. Those 3 realities: bench guard sobriety, rookie reliability, impending two-way depth collide at the same spot on the depth chart, and explain the rotation. Pivot better than any quote ever will. There's also the cap sheet honesty nobody loves to discuss on camera, but everyone inside the building understands. The veteran we're circling re-upped on a small, flexible number that screams mutual respect and mutual realism. If the role swells, you've got a bargain that scales in the playoffs. And if the role shrinks while the team scouts a different bench look, the number can move without drama or downstream apron headaches. I'm not telling you a move is guaranteed. I'm telling you the runway exists. If the picture holds once Milton's minutes stabilize and the rookie sample grows past pleasant flash into bankable rotation habit, that's how front offices keep seasons alive, by solving November problems with internal answers and leaving February optionality intact, not by betting the bay on a short-term sugar high. You keep partial guarantees handy, stack value on rookie-scale deals, maintain mid-tier flexibility, and suddenly you can shift a bench archetype without scraping the core or mortgaging future picks. That's not rumor talk. That's responsible team building in a league where the second apron punishes sentimentality. All this is happening with Steph still bending geometry like a lighthouse beam and Draymond still conducting traffic at championship tempo, while the Wings wage their nightly war to be the West's most disciplined switch team when the weather turns. You don't make a perimeter pivot of this size unless you truly believe the core can find one more rhythmic gear. And that's exactly why my read is bullish even if the conversation feels cold. I want a Warriors version where Steph's minutes are, flanked by two credible shooters and a long guard who erases mistakes before they become crises. I want non-Steph groups that don't have to thread perfect possessions to break even groups that can survive on spacing honesty, 0.5 decisions, and second-line length. Watch the recent second units. More 5-out looks with the big ghosting into handoffs, more pistol into keep, more quick pin-ins to punish top lock, fewer possession sacrifice because a defender is sitting at the nail daring a non-shooter to breathe. That's the difference between forcing a tough end clock pull-up and creating a clean corner catch. And it's exactly where this edit pushes the identity. And the Suns film keeps teaching if you slow it down. The non-Booker minutes swung not on heroics, but on boring. Repeatable details early offense that hit the third side. Wide pin downs that didn't cramp the lane, skip passes thrown on time so the closeout was long and late. On defense, the guards flattened drives at the 8-foot mark, trusted the peel switch when the angle was lost, and funneled to help without ceding the corner. That structure is what lets a coaching staff stick with guards who keep the offense breathing, while they contest without fouling. The 7-3-4 plus 2 stocks matters because it signals a player who can be in the middle of everything without demanding anything. Catch, swing, cut, relocate. Tag, recover, box out, rinse, and repeat. Layer the rookie on top on balance feet. Shot prepped early. Baseline drive with 2-foot takeoff and a shoulder that doesn't drift, and you get the veteran. Nod that unlocks real minutes. Now place Melton at the edge of activation, and you can almost see the rotation calculus in the huddle. If your guard can survive the first screen, contest late with length, and demand a real closeout on the other end, you don't need a pure specialist on every possession. You need reliability that keeps schemes honest across the full 94. Zoom even farther, and the economics line up with the basketball. The flexible deal means you can treat the decision like a basketball problem instead of a contract problem. If the data says the bench breathes with 2 shooters plus a long guard who can toggle across assignments, you follow the data. If a playoff opponent demands specialist minutes, think chasing an elite jitterbug across a 7-game scout. You can snap back situationally because the player is in your building, the language is shared, and the trust bank is full. That's what runway really means. Not trade inevitable, but choices preserved. It protects the locker room from panic and protects the fan base from whiplash. It also protects April from the mistakes of January, which brings us cleanly to the part you click for. And I'll deliver it with the same clarity the minutes have. After weeks of drip usage and then a statement DNP. Gary Payton, too, is out of the Warriors' core rotation right. That's not shade, not a career eulogy, not a disrespect to the plays that once detonated Chase Center. It's a sober snapshot of how Steve Kerr wants to win the next block of games with spacing that doesn't blink, length that scales across matchups, and backcourt pieces who can both stay home on shooters and make the weak side pay when the ball swings. Could it change in a week? Absolutely, if health forces a reshuffle, if a matchup screams for his particular brand of chaos, if the group's shooting cools and the defense needs a jolt at the point of attack. But today, as I talk to you, like we're shoulder to shoulder at a mission bar, the reality is bright and legible. The perimeter identity shifted, and the minutes followed. That puts the conversation where it always belongs, on your eye test and your basketball brain. Did you feel the offense exhale when the bench guards kept 2 shooters on the floor at all times? Or do you still crave the adrenaline spike from that one lockdown cameo, even if it tightens the paint and shrinks the pass windows? Do you want Kerr to hold this line until Melton lands and the sample tells its own story? Or would you pound the table for a specialist pocket in targeted bursts, regardless of spacing? Be specific below. Talk shot diet, talk corner occupancy. Talk how many times the second unit reached the dotted circle in rhythm instead of muscling ugly kickouts. This channel thrives on fans who love the boring details that decide April, not just the highlights that light up November. And because the bigger picture matters, here's my measure. Direct word to close this segment. This is a professional pivot with upside Peyton out of the core rotation for now. Younger legs and a soon returning two-way guard reshaping the backcourt profile. Cap flexibility preserved if the pitcher holds. And a coaching staff anchoring choices in two-way logic that wins more coin flip nights than it loses. I'm optimistic because the path is coherent, modern, and honest about what this roster needs. If you value breakdowns that cut through noise with real hoops language, tap in, like, subscribe, turn on alerts, and keep riding with Warriors News Fan Report. And before I log off, give me one concrete crunch time picture for next month. Curry melting with 3 rangy shooters and Draymond orchestrating. Or a specialist pocket for the glove junior to drag a star in the deep water for 3 manic minutes. That's the debate that will shape how this team turns theory into wins.